Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009 when he was just 15 years old. In July 2011, we were looking at universities and courses with a view to hopefully Ben being well enough to begin university in September 2012, which would be over a year later. This post is from the 14th of July and it's called Sheffield University Challenge. Yesterday saw us back at Sheffield University, this time looking at another faculty, with me taking Ben on an extensive walking tour of my former favourite haunts as a student in that lovely city. Eating disorder came too, however. Okay, it was a faint shadow of its former bullying self, but it was there, tagging along with us throughout the day. Firstly, there was the fact that we did so much walking when we had a day rider ticket for the buses and trams, and the fact that I often had to tell Ben to slow down, this isn't a route march, and my feet were killing me by the end of the day, and still are. Calories were top of my mind to make sure Ben got sufficient, and we still need to buy food that I know has sufficient calories to avoid him overestimating how many calories are in an item or cutting back on food further along the line. But the good news is that it didn't take us long to choose the meal deal from Boots. In the past, he'd have been chopping and changing, picking stuff up and putting it down, getting as far as the till and then backtracking to painfully try and make another choice. We would have been in there for ages. The other good news was that when the sandwich turned out to be a bit lacklustre, Ben still ate it. In the bad old high anorexia days, he'd have flung it down and refused to take another bite, and generally freaked out. And the other good news was that when the wind blew the packet of crisps all over the grass in the botanical gardens, he took it in his stride. Again, in the bad old high anorexia days, he would have freaked out. He also agreed to make up for the lost calories later on. More good news was that the packet of crisps was extremely calorific, the kind of thing he would never have eaten in the bad old days. So next on my mind was how to ensure Ben made up for lost calories, something I imagine wasn't top of mind for the majority of other parents shepherding their 17-year-old sons and daughters around the university campus. In the end, we ended up at Starbucks with a coffee and biscotti, which I was happy with. At 3:30 p.m, we attended a departmental talk, and as with the previous university visits, I found myself scanning the other teenagers to see if my son stood out as the skinniest or unusual in any way. And again, as in previous talks, I couldn't help noticing the boys who were of a similar build, body shape and height to Ben, or at least boys who were of a similar build and body shape to what Ben might have been had the anorexia not hijacked his body for 24 months. I expect all parents of teenagers with eating disorders can't help but do this comparison. And yes, it is heartbreaking as you wistfully imagine what could have been, and indeed should have been. Like many universities, Sheffield is asking for 3 grade A's at A-level. Although Ben has been incredibly successful at keeping up over the last 24 months when he's missed so much schooling, his grades probably aren't quite as high as they should be. Intellectually, he is more than capable of getting straight A's, but the eating disorder has got in the way of this, especially during the AS level exams this summer when Ben scarcely slept at all. So right at the end, when everyone else had left, including Ben, who'd gone to the gents, I'm the parent staying behind to ask the staff what the procedure is for applicants who have missed a substantial amount of school through illness. I didn't specify what the illness was. I believe they do make some minimal allowances, but as they rightly said, if he is still only able to do school part-time, you need to be completely sure he is A, ready to go away to university in 2012, and B, that the illness won't get in the way of his studies or attendance. I agreed and said that if we weren't 100% certain he was recovered, then he'd take a gap year or 2. So I came away feeling the usual sadness verging on impotent anger at how the eating disorder has hijacked my wonderful, intelligent and beautiful son and messed up this really important and exciting period of his life. But then I was reminded of the fact that not all successful students enter college or university straight from school. My sister, who got a higher class of degree than me, entered college as a mature student without the standard academic qualifications, and did very well indeed, and still is, so all is not lost. That's the end of that entry. Had Ben been going to university in 2011, it just would not have worked out. It wouldn't have been the right time, and I know this from experience of when he actually did go to university. And I believe that a young person needs to be fully weight restored and recovered from the eating disorder before they even think about going away to university. It's not just a case of being able to cope with the academic pressures of university. There's also the social pressures, and especially if you're thinking of going to a university away from your hometown, the fact that they'll be living away from home is another issue, a big issue. And I'll be talking a lot more about this in future blog entries from our own experience. You'll find a link below to my blog, and you'll also find a link to my website where you can download free PDFs of my blog, and also a link to Amazon where you can buy a copy of my book.